The world's richest man sent my family a $10 billion ring and announced that he would marry whichever woman it fit. The problem was that all four of us had already married him in previous lives. And he had murdered every one of us in our first life. Serafina secretly resized the ring and claimed it on their wedding night. Alastair Sterling beat her until her face was unrecognizable, screaming, "You're not her." The family had blamed Serafina's greed and convinced ourselves that Alastair's rage had been an exception. Her death frightened us, but it did not stop the next woman from imagining she could become the bride he wanted. In our second life, Lily starved herself until the ring fit. He threw her from a balcony. By then we knew the ring was dangerous. Yet wealth and survival made us cruel. We treated Lily's death as proof that she had forced the fit. Instead of asking why, Alastair had inspected her hand, married her publicly, and waited until the wedding night to decide she was wrong. In our third, my stepmother Meredith cut flesh from her own finger to force it on. He drowned her in a bathtub. Each life ended with a different punishment, but the same accusation. He never asked where his beloved was before the ceremony. He accepted the bride, completed the wedding, and only then became a murderer. It was as though the marriage itself triggered a memory none of us could see. In our fourth life, the family pushed forward. The ring fit me perfectly. I was secretly dating Alastair, and he had ordered it, using my measurements. So I believed the nightmare was finally over. Instead, he stabbed me again and again. "How dare you take her place?" he roared while I bled beneath him. "Where is she now?" We had returned for one final life, and none of us would touch the ring in every previous life. The rest of the family had watched one woman claim it and assumed the nightmare would end with her. This time we remembered all four deaths at once. Rivalry disappeared because none of us could survive another wrong choice. Alastair's secretary studied our frightened faces. "Mr. Sterling was very clear. The owner of this ring is one of the four ladies of the Ashwood family." Serafina stepped back. "I'm allergic to diamonds." Lily covered her hands. "My fingers would break it." Meredith clutched her late husband's portrait and declared that she would never remarry. Then everyone looked at me. The secretary smiled. "Miss Alastair, Mr. Sterling fell in love with you at first sight, didn't he? Surely the ring belongs to you." Love at first sight. That was what I had believed. Before Alastair turned our wedding chamber into my execution room, I refused to take the box. The secretary's smile cooled. "Mr. Sterling will come personally tomorrow. You have one night to decide." After he left, the four of us stared at the diamond as if it were a loaded weapon. No one suggested drawing lots. No one tried to push the box across the table. Even Serafina, who had once reshaped it to steal a billionaire husband, kept both hands hidden behind her back. For the first time, the women who had tormented me for years were my allies. We all remember dying. We all knew that presenting the wrong bride would be fatal. "The gala," I said suddenly, "that is where he supposedly saw his beloved. There must be security footage." We rushed back to the hotel. On the recording, our family sat alone at a table in the far corner. No one else came near us because the four of us could barely tolerate one another. Then Alastair entered. As he passed our table, he stopped and turned. His eyes landed directly on us. A tender smile spread across his face as he leaned toward his secretary. There was no fifth woman, no hidden guest. His beloved really was one of us. "Then why did he kill every bride?" Lily whispered. No one could answer. I could think of only one way to find out. That night I used the private entrance to Alastair's mansion, the entrance we used for our secret meetings. He looked surprised when I entered his study, but his expression quickly softened. "You should have called." The gentleman before me looked nothing like the monster who had butchered me. I forced myself closer. "The woman you intend to marry. Is it me?" "We've been together for a long time," he replied. "I sent the ring to ask for my beloved's hand. You already know my heart." He drew me onto his lap, but he had not answered my question. His study contained the gifts he had chosen for me during our secret relationship. Every familiar detail said I was the woman he loved. The memory of his knife said love was not the answer. There were books I had mentioned once, a scarf in the exact shade I liked, and the teacup I always used when we met in secret. No stranger could have prepared that room. Yet none of those objects explained why the man who remembered my smallest preferences had looked through me on our wedding night and demanded another woman. Either Alastair was lying now, or something happened after the vows that erased the person he believed I was. Both possibilities made tomorrow's wedding a trap. "Who is your beloved?" Alastair. His eyes flickered. "Why are you asking questions? You should already understand." He smiled. "Of course it's you, Alara. As long as you want it to be you, it will be marry me tomorrow, and I will treat you well. As long as I wanted it to be me not, because it was me Alastair. Had pursued me, he had protected me from my family, given me gifts they could never afford, cooked for me, and even knelt to tie my shoes before my last death. I had never doubted his love, but I could still hear what he said. As he stabbed me, you are only a toy. How dare you replace her? Alastair lifted my hand and kissed it. That small gesture sparked a terrifying possibility. Your beloved is, he pressed a finger to my lips for one instant. Danger flashed in his eyes. You're asking too many questions tonight. Go home, Alara, tomorrow is our wedding. I obeyed. The others surrounded me when I returned. Did you discover who she is? I looked at the ring on the table. If Serafina wore it, she would be beaten to death. If Lily wore it, she would fall from a balcony. If Meredith wore it, she would drown, and if I wore it, Alastair would stab me slowly, enough to make sure I felt every wound. I slid the ring onto my finger. I'll marry him. The three women stared at me. Have you lost your mind? Serafina demanded. We saw what he did to you. This is the only chance. We have to learn the truth and keep all four of us alive. Attend the wedding and act as though you know nothing. They demanded an explanation. I gave them only part of it. His beloved is one of us, I said, and I believe it's me. Their objections came at once. If Alastair loved me, why had he tortured me? Why did he accuse me of replacing someone else? I could not tell them the rest of my theory, not yet. The next morning, Alastair arrived to collect his bride. When he saw the ring on my finger, his face filled with adoration. He did not inspect the fit or ask whether anyone had altered it. He took my hand as if he recognized exactly where the diamond belonged, making the contradiction even more terrifying. The wedding was grander than anything from our previous lives. Walked down the aisle wearing veils. Alastair spoke his vows with such sincerity that even my family began to question its memories. When he lifted my veil, he smiled, as if he had found the person he had searched for all his life. This ring belongs to you, he whispered. It was made for you. Every detail confirmed that he loved me. Every memory confirmed that he would kill me. I played the devoted bride through the reception and waited for night. When the last guest left, I entered our bridal suite. Alone, a fruit knife lay beside a peeled apple on the table. In my previous life, his knife had been hidden beneath the mattress. Moving this one would change nothing. If my theory was right, I needed him to repeat the murder exactly as before. The servants withdrew. Footsteps approached. The door opened. Alastair looked at me, and the love vanished from his face. Madness took its place. You are not her, he snarled. How dare you marry me in her place? He seized the fruit knife and lunged. The fruit knife cut through the air with a familiar, sickening hiss. I did not flinch. In my fourth life, I had died with my arms pinned beneath my own wedding veil, frozen by the sudden, unimaginable horror of the man I loved, transforming into a butcher. I remembered the exact angle of his blade, the rhythm of his stroke, and the terrifying speed of his downward plunge. I ducked to the left. The silver blade sliced empty air, biting deeply into the carved headboard of the bridal bed. Wood splintered. Alastair grunted, his physical strength as monstrous as it had been in every life before, but his balance was thrown off by my evasion. You're not her, he roared again, his face contorted in a grotesque mask of agony and rage. His eyes, usually a soft, clear hazel, were bloodshot, the pupils dilated until they swallowed the iris whole. Where is she? What did you do with her? She's right here, Alastair, I shouted, backing toward the fireplace. Look at me. You tied my shoes yesterday. You bought me the blue teacup. You asked me to marry you. He tore the knife free from the mahogany post, turning on me with blind, rabid focus. Liars. All of you. Dirty, empty imposters. Before he could take another step, the heavy velvet drapes behind the settee swept back. Serafina charged first, slamming a heavy brass hearth poker directly across the back of his knees. Alastair buckled with a roar of pain. From the shadows of the adjacent dressing room, Lily and Meredith moved like ghosts executing a long-practiced murder of their own. Lily threw a weighted silk cord around his throat, pulling back with every ounce of the strength she had spent 3 lifetimes hiding, while Meredith drove a heavy silver tray against the side of his skull. The world's richest man crashed to the Persian rug with a thud that shook the floorboards. He fought like a rabid animal, thrashing against the ropes we had hidden in the sweet hours before the ceremony. But we were 4 women who had died by his hands. We had spent 4 lifetimes suffering his violence in isolation. Tonight, for the first time, we fought him as one body. Serafina pinned his ankles, using the full weight of her body to crush his legs. Against the floorboards, Meredith knotted the thick drapery cords around his wrists with ruthless, methodical precision. Lily held the hearth poker against his windpipe, her breath coming in ragged, terrified hitches, but her hands never trembled. Within 5 minutes, Alastair Sterling was tied securely to a heavy, carved oak armchair in the center of the bridal suite. He thrashed against his bonds, the blood from the scratch on his temple dripping down his cheek, staining his pristine white collar. He spat, his teeth bared.
Kill me then.
Cut my throat. You still won't be her. You'll never be her. I stood in front of him, my chest heaving, holding the fruit knife I had pulled from the headboard. The $10 billion ring sat heavy and cold on my left ring finger. Its diamond caught the faint firelight, throwing jagged splinters of light across his face. Look at us, Alastair, I commanded, my voice dropping to a low, icy tremble. He didn't look at my face. He looked at my chest, at my shoulders, at the space just above my head, as if he were trying to peer through a fogged window. Look at us, Serafina snapped, stepping into his line of sight. Look at my face. You beat me to death in the first life because I resized your damn ring. Look at Lily. You threw her off a balcony. Look at Meredith. You drowned her. Alastair's head jerked toward Serafina. Then his eyes flicked to Lily. Then to Meredith. Finally, his gaze settled on me. For a long, agonizing moment, the madness in his pupils flickered. The wide, rapid blackness contracted, revealing the clear hazel beneath.
His jaw
slackened. The violent tension in his neck dissolved, leaving him slumped against the oak chair, suddenly looking hollow, frail, and utterly bewildered. Serafina, he whispered, his voice raspy. Lily? Meredith? Why are you all in the bedroom? He looked at me, his eyes widening in pure, unadulterated terror. Not the terror of a captive, but the terror of a man waking up in a house on fire. Alara, he gasped, pulling frantically at the wrist bindings. Alara, what's happening? Why am I tied up? Why are you holding a knife? You just tried to slit my throat, I said, stepping closer, keeping the knife leveled at his chest. Just like you did in our last life. Just like you killed my sisters in the lives before that. What are you talking about? He cried. Tears sprang to his hazel eyes, spilling over his blood-stained cheeks. I love you. I've loved you since the moment I saw you at the gala. I spent months learning what books you read, what tea you drank, how you took your coffee. Why would I hurt you? I just married you. Because the moment you put this ring on my finger, I said, pointing the diamond at his face, you stop seeing the woman you loved. You turn into a monster and scream that we aren't her. I took a deep breath, stepping until I was inches from his face. So tell me, Alastair, who is she? Who are you looking for? Alastair stared at me, his breath hitching in his chest. The silence in the room was suffocating. Outside, the rain began to lash against the high stained glass windows of the Sterling estate, sounding like fingertips clawing at the glass. I don't know, he whimpered. Don't lie to us, Serafina yelled, raising the iron poker. I'm not lying, Alastair sobbed, his head falling back against the wood. I swear to God, I'm not lying. I don't remember killing you. I don't remember any past lives. All I know, all I have ever known, is the hunger. What hunger? Meredith asked, her voice cold as steel. She stood behind him, her hand resting on the back of his chair, her eyes scanning his neck for any sign of deception. The ring, Alastair whispered, his eyes rolling down to look at my hand. It isn't an heirloom. It's a curse. My family, the Sterling fortune, it wasn't built on shipping or finance. It was built on a sacrifice made 200 years ago. Lily took a step back, her hands flying to her mouth. A sacrifice? My great-great-grandfather, Alastair continued, his voice trembling so hard. His teeth clicked. He was obsessed with a woman named Aurelia Ashwood. Your ancestor. My breath caught in my throat. Ashwood. He wanted her, Alastair whispered. He was mad for her. But she rejected him. She loved someone else. In his fury, he hired an occultist to forge a ring. A vessel that would bind her soul to his lineage forever. He murdered her, trapped her spirit inside the diamond, and declared that no Sterling man could ever truly own his wealth unless he married the woman who carried Aurelia's soul. He looked at me, his eyes red and filled with genuine despair. For generations, the ring sat in our vault, he said. It stays dormant until a
Sterling man turns 30.
Then the ring speaks. It forces us to search for her. When I saw your family at the gala, my soul screamed. I looked at your table, and I felt Aurelia's presence so strongly, it nearly brought me to my knees. If you felt her presence, I demanded, then why did you murder Serafina?
Why?
Did you kill Lily and Meredith? Why did you stab me? Alastair closed his eyes, fresh tears streaming down his face. Because Aurelia's soul was shattered, he whispered. When my ancestor killed her 2 centuries ago, she died cursing him. Her soul broke into 4 pieces so that no single woman in your bloodline would ever carry the complete key to the Sterling curse. Each of you, each woman of the Ashwood family, carries 1 piece of Aurelia. The room went deathly cold. Serafina dropped the hearth poker. It hit the rug with a dull thud. Meredith let out a low gasp, taking a step away from Alastair's chair. 4 pieces? I muttered, looking at my sisters. Serafina carries her pride and her strength, Alastair said, his voice barely audible over the roaring rain outside. Lily carries her elegance and her form. Meredith carries her memory and her maternal instinct. And you, Alara, you carry her heart, her capacity to love. He looked up at me, his face twisted in agonized clarity. When I fell in love with you in this life, Alara, it was real. I loved your heart. But the curse of the ring doesn't care about love. The moment the ring is placed on a woman's finger, the binding spell inside the diamond activates. It scans the bride's soul, searching for Aurelia. He swallowed hard, a shudder running through his entire body. When it realizes the bride only has 1/4 of Aurelia's soul, the spirit inside the diamond panics. It drives the Sterling groom into an uncontrollable, demonic frenzy. The ancient magic screams in our ears. This is a fake. This is an imposter who stole a piece of your beloved. Kill her to set the piece free. Alastair wept, his shoulders shaking against the ropes. In every life, I marry the sister I am drawn to, and every night after the wedding, the ring turns me into a murderer. Once the bride dies, Aurelia's fragmented soul resets the timeline, dragging us all back to try again, because the ring demands to be whole. Silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. I looked down at the $10 billion ring on my finger, the massive diamond, which I had thought was a symbol of ultimate wealth and ultimate romance, was nothing more than a soul cage, a parasitic relic feeding on our deaths, resetting time every time it failed to consume a complete soul. That's why you asked where she was, I whispered, the memory of my 4th death flashing in my mind. Where is she now? How dare you take her place? It wasn't me speaking, Alastair sobbed. It was the magic of the ring.
It was
my ancestors' obsession, tearing through my body. When I woke up in past lives, with blood on my hands, I didn't even know what I had done before the world shattered and reset. Serafina stepped forward, her face dark with rage.
So what you're saying is, as
long as this ring exists, we are stuck in an eternal slaughterhouse?
Vidi?
Time resets. You kill us again? Yes, Alastair admitted weakly. Unless the ring is destroyed. Then we take it off, Lily said frantically, reaching for my hand. Alara, take it off right now. I pulled my hand back. I can't. Lily froze. What do you mean you can't? I tried to pull the silver band off my finger. It wouldn't move. I pulled harder, tearing at the flesh of my knuckle until it bled. The metal seemed fused to my bone. The diamond flared with a strange, sickening inner light, pulsing like a heart. Once the wedding vows are spoken, Alastair whispered in horror, the ring locks. It will not come off while the bride is alive. Then we cut off her finger, Serafina said, reaching for the fruit knife on the
bed. No.
Alastair shouted. If you harm the host while the ring is locked, the curse will kill her instantly to force the soul reset. That's what happened to Meredith in your 3rd life when she cut her flesh. The magic drowned her. Meredith clutched her throat, horror written across her pale features. So if Alara doesn't kill you, and we don't kill her, what happens? The ring will force me to kill her, Alastair said, his voice hollow. He looked at his bound hands. The spell is already waking up inside my mind. Right now. Because you tied me up and confronted me, my consciousness is fighting it.
But
It won't last. In an hour, half an hour, the ancestral instinct will take over. I will break these ropes. And I will cut her heart out. The panic in the room was palpable. Serafina began pacing like a caged panther. Lily sank onto the edge of the bed, weeping silently into her hands. Meredith stood by the window, staring out into the dark storm, searching for an answer. That wasn't there. I stood in the center of the room, staring at my hands. For lives of dying. For lives of suffering. Serafina's broken bones. Lily's shattered body on the courtyard stones. Meredith's lungs filled with bathwater. My own blood pooling on the velvet sheets. All because a dead billionaire couldn't handle rejection 200 years ago. No, I said softly. The room quieted. My sisters turned to look at me. No more, I said, my voice rising, growing steadier, harder than it had ever been in 5 lifetimes. We are done running.
we are done dying.
We are done letting this dead man's sickness dictate our existence. Alara, Meredith said gently, what can we do? The ring is locked on your hand. If he wakes up fully possessed, he'll kill you. He won't, I said, turning to Alastair. I grabbed him by the lapels of his suit, pulling him forward until his eyes were inches from mine. Alastair, you said. Aurelia's soul was split into 4 pieces. One in each of us. Yes, he whispered. And the ring turns you into a monster, because it searches for the whole soul. And only finds one piece, right? Yes. Then what happens? I asked, a dangerous, brilliant idea taking root in my mind. If all 4 pieces are present at the altar, what happens if the ring sees all 4 of us at once? Alastair blinked, stunned. I don't know. The spell was designed to bind one woman to one groom. It was never meant to process a fractured soul. Reunited. Then we reunited, I declared, turning to my sisters. Serafina frowned.
How?
We can't merge our bodies into one person, Alara. We don't need to merge our bodies, I said. We need to merge our intent.
In
every past life, we were divided. We hated each other. We competed for the ring. Out of greed, out of desperation, out of survival. When Serafina took it, we blamed her. When Lily took it, we ridiculed her. When Meredith took it, we abandoned her. And when I took it, I went alone. I looked at the 3 of them, tears hot in my eyes. The spell feeds on our separation. It works because Aurelia's soul was shattered by malice and isolation. But tonight, we remember.
tonight, all 4
of us are here, alive, together, loving each other enough to protect one another. I reached out my hand. Serafina, give me your hand. Serafina hesitated for a fraction of a second, then stepped forward and gripped my right hand tightly. Her palm was rough, strong, and warm.
Lily.
Meredith. Lily ran forward, grabbing Serafina's hand. Meredith closed the circle, holding Lily's hand with her left and laying her right hand directly over the heavy diamond on my finger. The moment all 4 of us touched, a violent shockwave snapped through the air. The bridal suite faded away. The walls, the high stained glass windows, the oak chair even. Alastair, everything dissolved into an endless, blinding white void. We were no longer standing on a Persian rug. We were standing on a plane of pure, shimmering light. And sitting in the center of the light was a woman. She wore a gown of ancient silk, yellowed by time. Her face was a breathtaking synthesis of all 4 of us. She had Serafina's sharp, decisive brows, Lily's delicate, arched lips, Meredith's deep, knowing eyes, and my warm, expressive smile. Aurelia Ashwood. She rose from the light, looking at the 4 of us with eyes that held the weight of 2 centuries of sorrow. My daughters, Aurelia spoken, her voice sounding like a harmony of 4 voices, singing in unison. You have finally stopped fighting each other, Aurelia? Meredith whispered, falling to her knees. For 200 years, my soul was torn into fragments to hide from the Sterling debt, Aurelia said, walking toward us. Her glowing fingers touched Serafina's cheek, then Lily's, then Meredith's, and finally came to rest on my chest, right over my heart. I thought by splitting myself among my bloodline, I could protect you. But the ring's malice was too great. It hunted you. It forced you to destroy one another in pursuit of an illusion. How do we break it? I asked, stepping forward, taking Aurelia's hand. How do we destroy the ring? Aurelia smiled, a bittersweet, beautiful expression. The ring is powered by the Sterling patriarch's belief that a woman's soul can
Be owned, she said.
He trapped my love, my pride, my beauty, and my memory inside that diamond, claiming that without him, I was incomplete. And for 5 lives, you believed that without the Sterling fortune, you were incomplete. She looked at each of us in turn. To break the ring, you must refuse the bargain. Not just one of you, all of
You.
you must choose each other over the billionaire's crown. We already have, Serafina said fiercely, her voice echoing through the white
Space.
I don't give a damn about his money. I just want my sisters to live. I don't want his status, Lily cried. I want us to be safe. I don't want his legacy, Meredith said, tears streaming down her face. I want my family back. I looked at Aurelia, then back toward the faint outline of Alastair trapped in the physical world beyond the white void. And I love the man, I said softly, but I will not let his legacy turn him into a killer, and I will not die for his family's sins. Aurelia nodded softly. Then take back what is ours. She extended her hand. A pulse of blinding, golden light erupted from her chest, flowing through our joined hands. The 4 of us gasped as a wave of immense warmth flooded through our veins. Memories that were not our own, memories of freedom, of fields of clover, of laughter before the Sterling curse ever touched our line, washed over us, mending every scar, every trauma, every terrifying shadow of our 4 deaths. The golden light surged toward the ring on my finger. The diamond began to scream. It wasn't a human scream. It was the sound of tearing metal, of breaking glass, of a 200-year-old prison collapsing under the weight of 4 united hearts. Snap. The white void exploded into a million shards of light. We crashed back into the bridal suite. The air in the room was burning hot. A scent of ozone and melted silver filled our lungs. Alastair was thrashing in the oak chair, roaring in agony as a dark, black mist poured out of his mouth and nostrils. The black mist twisted into the shadowy shape of an ancient man wearing a top hat and a cruel, sneering face, the ghost of the original Sterling patriarch. The dark phantom reached toward me, its claws stretching to rip the soul from my
Body.
She is mine, the shadow hissed in a voice like grinding stones.
The
Ashwood blood belongs to the Sterling estate. Not anymore, Serafina roared. She grabbed the heavy brass hearth poker from the floor and swung it with all her might, driving the metal straight through the center of the dark shadow. At the exact same instant, the $10 billion diamond on my finger
shattered.
It didn't just crack, it exploded into fine, sparkling dust that rained down onto the Persian rug like harmless snow. The silver setting turned to liquid, dripping off my hand without burning my skin, pooling uselessly on the
Floorboards.
The black phantom let out a final, agonizing shriek as the spell broke.
The dark
mist dissolved into nothingness, swept away by the cold wind blowing through the open window. Silence returned to the room. Alastair slumped forward in the chair, his breathing shallow and ragged.
The
dark, rabid madness in his face was completely gone. The ropes binding him loosened and fell away as if the spell holding them tight had died with the
ring.
He slowly raised his head. His eyes were clear, hazel, and entirely his own. He looked at the diamond dust on the floor. He looked at Serafina, Lily, and Meredith. Finally, he looked at me, his eyes brimming with deep, profound
sorrow.
It's gone, he whispered, touching his temple. The voice, the hunger's
Gone.
My head is clear. He fell out of the chair onto his knees, crawling forward until he was at my
feet.
He didn't reach for my neck. He didn't pull a knife. He wrapped his arms around my legs, burying his face in the hem of my wedding dress, weeping uncontrollably. I'm sorry, he sobbed, his voice raw. I'm so sorry for what my bloodline did.
To you.
For what I did to you in those dark dreams. I'm so sorry, Alara. I looked down at him. The man who had stabbed me to death in my 4th life was now nothing more than a broken survivor of his family's cursed legacy. I knelt down beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Serafina, Lily, and Meredith stepped up behind me, placing their hands on my shoulders. The nightmare is over, Alastair, I said softly. The loop is broken. 3 months later, the Sterling fortune was restructured. Alastair resigned as the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, dismantling the dark ancestral foundations of his family's empire, and turning the vast majority of his wealth into a foundation dedicated to protecting women who had suffered from domestic violence and ancestral abuse. He didn't stay in the mansion. He left the country to seek quiet, lonely penance, leaving the Ashwood family with enough resources to live comfortably for 5 lifetimes, without a single condition attached. Before he left, he met me one last time at the small coastal house my family had bought away from the city. He offered no rings. He made no grand declarations of eternal love. He simply handed me a small wooden box. Inside was a simple, unadorned blue teacup. "If you ever decide you want to talk," he said quietly, his hazel eyes clear and warm, "I'll be waiting. But only if you choose it."
No curses. No destiny.
I smiled, taking the box. "Goodbye, Alastair." After he left, I walked back into the garden. Serafina was sitting on the porch, sketching designs for her new jewelry. Simple, beautiful pieces made of silver and semi-precious stones, built for elegance, not ownership. Lily was practicing ballet on the grass, her movements fluid and free, unburdened by starvation or fear. Meredith sat beside Serafina, sipping tea and laughing at a photograph in a magazine. When I walked up the steps, they all looked at me. There were no secrets between us anymore. No jealousies. No desperate ploys to win the favor of a wealthy man. We had died 4 times as rivals, but we had survived as sisters. I sat down beside Meredith, taking a sip from my tea. The afternoon sun beat down on us, warm and bright, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. For the first time in 5 lives, tomorrow was a mystery, and none of us had to
Die to see it.